Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from podweather.com and Internet Partnership Radio with an update on the tropics. Taking a look out there today, you can see we have a few features. Of course, Bertha is still out here. It might become a hurricane again as it starts to pull away a little bit faster now towards the north-northeast. It's going to kind of do a loop-to-loop and then probably head on out. And out here in the central Atlantic, we have two waves. This one is a low-pressure center that's ill-defined and weak, and it's moving west, west-northwest. And it is an invest, and it could become a depression if it were to organize, but right now there's no indication of that. And then behind that we had this impressive wave that's starting to kind of turn in here very far south, but keep an eye on it. It could do something potentially if it pulls away from the tropical convergence zone, and more waves moving on off behind that. We'll talk about all of these. Here's latest on Bertha as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 35.6 north, 62.7 west. Winds were 70 miles an hour, gusting to 85, so it's close to becoming a hurricane again. It's expected to. It's moving north-northeast at 11, but it should slow down and then kind of drift around and loop and then head on out. And it could be extratropical by the time the end of the weekend rolls around out here, and we wouldn't have to deal with it. Pressure 995 millibars. Now, when we take a look at Bertha at this hour, you can see the impressive circulation still, and with this convection wrapping around, I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a hurricane again. In fact, I think it very likely could, and it's in the forecast to do so. But as it moves on out, it will then start to weaken, and we won't have to deal with it anymore. You can see the latest track guidance are generally around here, erratic, and then out, and that's what it's looking like at this general time. But again, it still could loop around for a few days, and we don't want to see that. We want to get rid of it as soon as possible. Now, taking a look at the tropics in the central Atlantic, we have this feature. This is an invest, and you can see here it's not all that well defined. There is a low pressure center with it right in this region here, but it is getting sheared. There's a lot of dry air in the environment, and it is still a little bit hooked up. You can see this line here. See this line connecting from one wave down here to our low pressure, and see this stable air in here. This is a very bad environment for a developing cyclone. You don't want to see this, but it is holding its own as it's moving west. And if we look at the latest track model guidance, generally a lot of the models have dropped it, but some still keep it, and it's generally off towards the west or west-northwest. And so there's a chance that it could become a depression or a storm over the next few days as it moves into the Caribbean, but it's got a tough road ahead. You can see wind shears very high in this region here. If it moves further south, it might be able to escape that a little bit and only get the northern side affected. In fact, sometimes that helps the system because if you have winds blowing in the direction around the north side of the system when it's trying to spin up, that could be favorable. But it's we're talking about something that's so ill-defined that you can't talk about vertical stacking and development as a tropical cyclone until we actually get that center of circulation with the convection straight over it developing. So it should be kind of between medium wind shear and high wind shear, favorable pockets, but regardless, environment is getting less likely for development. Behind it we have this wave that's looking impressive. We'll wait and see if this does anything on its own. Doesn't seem to be hinting at anything in the models, and nothing's really expected to happen with these waves over Africa, at least based on the long-range models. They've kind of shut things off for a good week or two, and we could hope that's the case, but we'll still have to contend with Bertha, no doubt about that. And again, if we take a look at the overall Atlantic, you can see all our features are invest in here, the wave behind that, weak wave in the Caribbean, a little troughiness at the tail end in the Gulf that always needs to be watched. Bertha, of course, and this low pressure that's helping interact with Bertha as it moves on out. So it is an active tropical Atlantic. Now, if we look a little bit further out towards south of Mexico, you see this turning here. This is another invest 90E, and this could become a tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane as it moves west over the next several days. Again, you could clearly see Bertha starting to move and look very much like a hurricane. So if I had a bet, I'd say that it would become a hurricane again. Finally, further out in the East Pac, we have another hurricane, and this is Hurricane Aleta, and winds are down now to 80 miles an hour, gusting to 95, moving west-northwest at 11, and 983 millibars on that pressure. It should generally weaken and move out. but you can see it's still a impressive hurricane, good convection, and not a lot of banding features, not a well-defined eye by any means like we saw yesterday at times, but still a formidable Category 1 hurricane. Finally, in the Westpac, we have Tropical Storm Kalmagi. Winds are 40, gusting to 50. It's moving slowly to the west. It's expected to turn north, strengthen into a moderate to strong tropical storm and strike China. And if we look at the satellite, you can see a lot of cold cloud tops with that, but the center further north of that, moving in this general direction. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm Mike Naso from podweather.com. I'll see you next time.